So today we are going to talk about living in the hive cities of 40k. Those self-sufficient urban sprawls sacked into colossal artificial mountains housing billions or even tens of billions of loyal servants of the Imperium of Man. There are some really great resources that explore these cities, and basically all of them conclude that the reality of life within these hives is a testament to grimdark fiction, where life for the vast majority is an endless ordeal marked by severe hardship and suffering. There are also great resources that show what everyday life might be like on other worlds, on civilized worlds, agri-worlds, feudal worlds and the like. And what these show is that there isn't one uniform imperial culture. Rather, each world has its own unique identity and way of life. However, planets like these, the ones that really don't sound that bad, are really in essence exceptions to the norm, with the vast majority of the Imperium citizens living out their lives on hive or forge worlds where life is drastically different and usually far more challenging. But what constitutes home in such a dystopia for the statistically average citizen? The standard Joe Imperium. Maybe Joe would return to something similar to the concrete shoebox we see in Blade Runner 2049, where he would be welcomed by a warm and beautiful Cuban hologram housewife who has prepared a nice bowl of steaming translucent shoelaces for dinner. Well, first off, entertaining the idea of an abominable intelligence relationship is heresy in Imperium, and for even thinking it, you degenerate heretic, you have left me disappointed and disgusted. But setting aside these moral implications while we wait for the commissar to arrive, is the concrete shoebox concept too luxurious to even consider? What is the reality of home for the masses serving the Imperium? What does the perfectly average hab unit look like in 40k? What amenities are available? And what do you do once you have finished your 16-hour shift? Well, let's find out together. Life in the towering hive cities of the Imperium is a study in contrast, defined by the vertical division of its social classes. At the pinnacle sit the hive spires, home to the highborn and nobility who bathe in the Imperium's riches, whereas the lower levels are crammed with countless workers, the true backbone of the hive productivity, living in conditions marked by overcrowding, pollution, and decay. Yet, the aim of this video is to really focus on the everyday experiences of the average Joe, someone who 40k fans might even relate to on some level. Let's say someone who is lower middle class, someone who easily gets lost in the sea of grime-streaked faces, one who is just another cog in the machine, administering massive factories that produce goods whose purposes are likely a complete mystery even to him. For Joe, and countless others like him, existence is incredibly bleak. But it is livable. The air is thick with pollutants, the streets are a maze of plasteel and concrete, and the rumble and roar of massive machinery is never ending. There is extreme overcrowding, relentless factory production of everything from weapons and consumables through to exotic chemicals and medicines. There is inescapable pollution, stim-infused breathing air, sunlight is a distant memory for most, and the streets seethe with unchecked gang violence. All while, mutants and monsters stalk the lowest levels of the hive. Every resource, be it air, water, or food, is part of an endless cycle, having made its way through the bodies of countless others before being reclaimed once more. This environment breeds a certain resilience, a hardened outlook on life where small joys are found in the quiet camaraderie of fellow workers, the comfort of a local pub or music hall, or the rare moments of relative silence in your bunk before production kicks back into full swing once more. Now, for many in hives, the idea of privacy is quite foreign, and this translates too to their living situation. It is not uncommon for the less fortunate workers to find their rest at the same place where they work, rolling out their ratty bedrolls, if they even have bedrolls, in the same cold factories or beside the roaring forges that consume their waking hours. Crowded together, they seek out whatever small space they can, often just a few centimeters from their equally exhausted colleagues, before offering prayers to the Emperor and waiting for sleep to claim them, only to be haunted by nightmares of colourful monstrous demons that rip into your body and devour your soul. Some other hivers might find themselves living in the hive's vast warm sewer systems, subsisting on vermin and bioluminescent mushrooms that thrive on human waste. Others might live out their lives in a lower level slum, living in makeshift shelters cobbled together from salvaged materials and housing several families within a single cramped space. However, to offer you a glimpse into a slightly less grim existence, and to add a splash of cliché variety to the video, let's make Joe a somewhat more blessed individual. Let's say a low-level administrator of some kind. This position, while low on the hive's grand social ladder, affords him a modicum of privacy and status. Despite being incredibly far from the top, he does have his own little hab unit, which is basically just fancy wording for apartment, and he gets paid a livable wage, which in of itself is not a guarantee on many Imperial worlds. Compensation for such positions and labour is not uniform across the Imperium. It ranges from real functional currency through to food stamps, water rations, or simply working to offset an inherited debt, a burden many are born into. Anyway, so Joe gets paid and he has a hab unit. Good for him. So he clocks off the floor, his cloak draped over one arm and his rebreather dangling from the other, and he heads out to navigate the crowded, stinking streets outside. He merges with the endless flow of humanity, workers in stained jumpsuits, zealots and priests mindlessly repeating hushed prayers, enforcers watching the masses and halting random, seemingly on a whim, flustered officials hurrying back and forth, beggars reaching out with dirt-caked hands, begging for any scrap of generosity, each lost in their own concerns, and each paying Joe no mind. Joe ignores the blinding neon signs directing him towards the pubs, cook shops, and wager halls that he knows all too well. He filters out the blaring sermons and the propaganda playing over the Vox speakers high above. Quickly brushing away the soot from his eyes, he sidesteps the chemical bite of a familiar radiated puddle, but instead shoulders a servitor, sending sealed administratum scrolls tumbling at the feet of the flowing crowd. Without a flicker of emotion, the servitor halts, methodically retrieving the scrolls from the ground as the flow of humanity moves on. Joe reaches his favourite hunch sustenance unit, DC 6969, and his rusting wagon, collecting his staple dinner, a grey slab of what's promised to be grox meat and a side of nutrient sticks. He pushes on, up to the door of his damp, dripping concrete habstack. He makes his way into the foyer, where the air is thick with the tang of glow sticks and the hushed gossip of naughty nighttime adventures. He squeezes into the tiny scratched elevator, swipes his ident pass and selects level 259, greeted by a soft chime of acknowledgement. A few shaky minutes later and then he's there. The elevator door loudly judders open, and with a quick swipe of his key and a quick blood sample analysed by the microneedle in his doorframe, Joe is home. What does he see inside? Well, it's pretty grim. I would say the first thing to hit you would be the stale air, stinking of industrial oils and the outside's polluted atmosphere, a result of ventilation activating only upon the hab unit's occupancy, signalled by the use of one's access key and the doors opening. The small rectangular concrete room, likely of a size around 10 square meters, would be lit by a single flickering light bar, casting its blinding glow upon Joe's few personal effects. A scratched metal table bears the marks of his modelling hobbies and rests his meticulously cared for Voxcaster, his dog-eared books, and the one picked that he kept of her. There are 2 inbuilt chairs that have seen better days, and a narrow twin-sized bed dressed with an itchy and stained blanket built into the wall that would uncomfortably fit 2 adults. There is some deluxe concrete floor space as well where Joe's kids could sleep if his wife hadn't run off with that ganger a few months back. Otherwise, there is little in the way of comfort or furniture. In one corner, a small cooking unit sits atop a metal cabinet, its surfaces stained by spills and burns from the previous tenant's poor attempts at home cooking. In another corner, tucked into an alcove and poorly hidden by a thin, tattered and stained curtain, is the strictly rationed shower, toilet and sink. The walls, decorated only with water stains that sometimes form strangely appealing patterns, are cold and bare. But Joe is lucky. Joe has a window. An incredible luxury for many around him, and even more so as his window offers a slight view between the habstacks opposite. From here, Joe can eat his dinner, listen to the live sermon and hymns, and look through his smudged window at a landscape dominated by massive jutting ventilation pipes, countless window lights, sweeping search beams, floating advertising skiffs, billows of furnace smoke, flickering neon light displays, and the constant sparkling stream of grav cars. So, habs in hive cities are pretty bare, claustrophobic, and depressing. They can bear a strong resemblance to the tightly packed single-room apartments of China and the communal living spaces of the Soviet Union. Designed with pure efficiency rather than comfort in mind, hab units lack luxury as we understand it. They function primarily as a temporary oasis, offering hab workers, who are fortunate enough to afford them, a crumb of privacy and personal space amidst the constant cycle of labour that otherwise consumes their lives. Owning such an oasis is a lifelong goal for many, as it symbolises the achievement of some ownership and control over their lives. Yet, despite this, habs are far from a true escape. They are mere band-aids over the deeper wound of a life spent in unending toil. A strong reminder of the vast divide between the upper classes of the hive and the labouring masses who power their endless demands. And here I really must emphasise again that stereotyping the living situation of the average Imperial citizen is a real challenge due to the incredible scale and diversity of the Imperium. With an uncountable number of worlds, each with its unique characteristics, stages of development and diverse populations, finding a universal commonality among Imperial citizens is basically impossible. However, one common truth does make itself clear. For the vast majority of Imperial citizens in 40k, life is far from pleasant. Whether they live on untamed death worlds, lush agri worlds, industrialized forge worlds, Blade Runner-esque hive worlds, or any other classification, existence for most is marked by some form of hardship and struggle. Even those living in the relatively pleasant areas face conditions that, by any standard measure today, are hardly desirable. Yet still, somehow, individuals can still carve out their own spaces of happiness and peace, as has been humanity's way throughout history. For many, the ecclesiarchy provides spiritual meaning and a foundation of comfort. But the pursuit of happiness often seeks more material outlets. For many others, red light districts whisper with neon promises, blood sports and gambling offer adrenaline highs, and underground fight clubs offer many a brutal way to vent their stresses. Anyway, if you are in a hive city and you have your own sealed hab unit, you are doing pretty well. If you have your own hab unit and it's not like a literal prison cell, then you're doing great. If you have a hab unit and you can actually see the sky, invest heavily in your security systems. A glimpse of the heaven is an incredibly rare luxury, one that many have killed and would kill to have. If you enjoyed this video and a look at the living situation of Joe Imperium, please let me know by liking the video and leaving a comment below. If this is something that you all enjoy, it might be fun to explore a whole range of lives and different living situations across the Imperium. From the frontline experiences of guardsmen and PDF troopers, to the weird and wacky lives of tech priests and traitor legion serfs. We could even look into the fancy world of a planetary governor, or look at the underbelly of society with a look at a ganger's life in Necromunda. Lots to explore. Anyway, thanks for watching. Dystopian Chimp, out.